Massimo Rivola stood in front of the cameras at Brno and said the quiet part with a smile. "When things go well, we're not superstars," the Aprilia boss said. "And when they go badly, we're not idiots." He said it after watching Marc Marquez rip 62 points off his championship lead in just 2 race weekends. 40 points. That is all that is left of a cushion that looked untouchable a month ago. Rivola wants you to believe this is bad luck, not a bad bike. So why does a man defending his machine sound like a man who has stopped counting? And what is he really protecting when he insists Aprilia are not idiots? 2 race weekends. That is how long it took for a title fight everyone had buried to come back to life. After Mugello, Marquez sat 102 points behind, racing for nothing but pride. A gap that size is supposed to end a title race, not restart one. Now he is close enough to taste it, and he has stopped hiding it. "I can't rule myself out of the fight for the title," Marquez said after Brno. "We're closer, just 40 points behind. When a 7-time world champion stops being polite about your lead, the pressure does not land on him. It lands on the man in front, and the man in front rides for Aprilia. Here is the first thing that does not fit the story. If Aprilia lost 62 points because Ducati and Marquez are simply faster, then the Aprilia should have been nowhere at Brno. Instead, it was everywhere. Ogura put a Trackhouse Aprilia, a satellite bike, on pole, led the Grand Prix, and crossed the line just 0.4 of a second behind Marquez. And Aprilia did not just survive the weekend the lead collapsed. It very nearly won it. So the bike is not the problem. Look at the results again, and the holes are not where you would expect them. Bezzecchi did not lose those points on pace. He lost them sitting still. At the Hungarian round, his Sunday ended at the first corner, before he had raced a single lap. At Brno, his Sunday ended before the lights even went out because he was not allowed to start at all. That is the part Rivola will not say into a microphone. The machine supposedly cracking under Ducati just took pole and finished within half a second of the hottest rider in the championship. The points did not leak out of the engine. They leaked out of everything around it. And once you see where they actually went, Rivola's calm stops sounding like confidence. Start with Hungary, because that 0 was not even Bezzecchi's fault. He did not crash himself out of the lead. His own teammate did it for him. Jorge Martin lost the front under hard braking for turn 1 and speared straight into Bezzecchi, wiping out both factory Aprilias in a single careless move. The 2 riders sitting first and second in the World Championship watched Sunday's Grand Prix slip away with nothing, while Marquez calmly collected his 100th career win. The stewards gave Martin a double long lap penalty. Aprilia gave itself a catastrophe. Then came Brno, and this one Bezzecchi owned completely. In the sprint, he lost his temper and shoved a marshal, and the stewards threw him out of Sunday's Grand Prix. Aprilia appealed. Aprilia lost. "I pushed the marshal, but..." Bezzecchi started to explain, and the rest of the sentence did not matter, because by then he was watching the race on a screen. 2 weekends, 2 zeros, and not one of them came from a slow motorcycle. And here is the part almost nobody led with. While the whole paddock watched Marquez close the gap to 40 points, somebody else was closing faster. Jorge Martin, the same teammate who wiped him out in Hungary, is now just 8 points behind Bezzecchi. 8! 5 times closer than the man everyone is watching and on identical machinery. The man Bezzecchi should fear most is not in a Ducati. He is in the other half of the same garage. 8 points is barely a third of a single race win. One bad Sunday, and the lead is gone from inside his own box. Now go back and listen to Rivola's words with that in mind. "We simply have to keep working," he said, without paying too much attention to the standings. Sit with that line for a second. The boss of the team leading the World Championship just told everyone to stop looking at the championship. That is not the language of a man defending a fast bike. That is the language of a man who has quietly accepted he can no longer control the points, so he is changing the subject to the only thing he still can, which is his rider's head. Listen to how Rivola framed the Marshall mess. "It's important to act as a united team," he said, "just as we did recently with Jorge regarding what happened. Sit with that one too. In the space of 2 races, Rivola has had to publicly glue his garage back together twice. Once after Martin took out his own title leader. Once after that title leader shoved an official in front of the cameras. This is not a man steering a championship. This is a man running from fire to fire with a bucket. So let's say it plainly. People thought Rivola was out there defending the Aprilia against a resurgent Ducati. He was not. He was defending Marco Bezzecchi against Marco Bezzecchi. The threat to Aprilia's first real title shot in a premier class they have never won was never the Ducati. It was the temperament of the two men they handed the bike to. This is the flip. Those 62 points did not measure how fast Ducati had become. They measured how fragile Aprilia's title campaign was the instant adversity touched it. A faster rival, you answer, with development, data, and time in the wind tunnel. A rider who lashes out at a marshal, who gets collected by his own teammate, who unravels the moment the lead tightens. You cannot fix on a dyno. And the pressure is not easing. It is climbing, because every point Marquez claws back and every point Martin claws back lands on the same set of shoulders. Watch what that pressure has already done. The Bezzecchi the paddock fell for was loose, fast, fearless, the feel-good story of the season so far. The Bezzecchi at Brno was a man who lost his head in a sprint and threw away a Grand Prix. That is not someone protecting a comfortable lead. That is someone who can feel it slipping and cannot stop his own hands from shaking the table. Rivola can see it. That is exactly why he stopped talking about points and started talking about unity. So here is where it actually stands. Aprilia have the strongest package they have ever built, a bike that can grab pole and run a 7-time champion to 4/10 on its worst weekend. And it might still cost them the title, because the danger was never under the fairing. Marquez is 40 points back and openly hunting an 8th crown. I can't rule myself out, he said, and he means it. Martin is 8 points back and does not need to say a word. Bezzecchi is in front, and cracking, with Assen, the sports cathedral and a circuit that punishes hesitation, next on the calendar. Rivola can promise a united team as often as he likes. He cannot ride the bike, he cannot calm the rider, and he cannot unshove a marshal. When he says Aprilia are not idiots, he is right. They are not idiots. They built something brilliant. They just may not have built the one thing a title actually demands. A rider who holds steady when the 7-time champion behind him starts to smell blood. That is the question Assen will answer, and Rivola already knows it. So the real question was never whether Aprilia built a fast enough bike. It is whether they handed it to a rider who can survive his own nerves. Do you think Bezzecchi holds on, or does this title slip straight through Aprilia's hands? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.